Yes, hello, folks. Welcome to the weekly Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Phil Brown. This, of course, will go out on my new podcast platform. We are United Pod. I'm delighted to be joined here with my regular co-host, the excellent James Rhodes. Of course, the day after United have beaten Everton. For those of you asking, I'll be back tomorrow with another show with Sean. So delighted to get this one on the board as well. Because it's been a wee while. Jamesy, how you doing, mate?
Yes, doing well. Happy to be coming back to another win. It's a strange feeling. A strange game to some degree, but a strange feeling, but a good one to keep following. And as long as we're winning, to me, it's like whatever right now.
Right.
Winning games. That's what we're here to do right now.
I mean, to me, I think that if you look at a lot of the results, usually with other teams, everyone's dropping points. I think United
Yeah.
sometimes very harshly judged for that draw
Yeah.
against West Ham. The game yesterday saw a lot of similarities to the West Ham game. To me, there was an awful lot to be optimistic about. And look, it is astonishing return from Michael Carrick
Yeah.
since he's come into the job as points return, goals return, clean sheet return, all the things that just look beyond the previous, previous manager, Ruben Amorim. And I don't want to keep hammering on him. We'll eventually get out of that compare and contrast era at stage, but at the minute, it's just so stark. And Benjamin Sesko coming off the bench, scoring a key goal again, where you don't want to fall in love with him, but it's impossible not to. Really, really exciting to see Sesko getting another key goal. And, just one of the things that what I like about Sesko is I was reading a stat about his performances under Amorim. And chance conversion, shots on target, chances created, how many games he played was actually bizarrely playing much more under Amorim. But it was showing you where he was getting the ball. And very rarely was he getting the ball in key areas where he's getting the ball 20 yards from goal, 15 yards from goal. And you look at where United are getting him the ball, he's in much more dangerous positions. He looks a completely different football player. We'll get the Lamans, we'll get to everyone else, but we'll start on Sesko. My goodness.
Yeah, he's done incredible, and it's so good to see because it was a bit of it was a slow start. Took a few things under that, and since then, in the last month, 6 games, 7 games, wherever it's been, he's just been flying, and it's good to see it. The confidence is there, the striking is there, the finishing of chances is there. He was getting some of them earlier in the year, but just not really taking them, and there was times you're looking at it and going, what's the deal here? But it's so good to see that the development, and it just keeps happening. It just keeps improving game after game after game for him, and everything that he's doing. And he's becoming a real sort of striker in that sense. And where you're going.
One of the impressive things about Sesko isn't just what he's doing on the pitch, it's what he's doing off it, right? I mean, he had every right to expect to start against Everton.
Yeah.
I'm sure disappointed that he wasn't. But what we don't have is when the camera pans to him on the bench, looks like he's offended to be there, doesn't have a brother on social media, that is taking aim at the manager and isn't flirting with other football clubs because he feels like it's an offense not to start him. He's adapting the right attitude, coming on key moments in games. I look at his variety of goals. I look at his turn of pace and going, it's so easy just to label him as a big target man, knock a ball into him. But actually, he's looked much better with his feet than he has with his head.
Yep. Yeah, he has, and he's because for his size, that's what you're thinking. Like, is he just like a big bully and all of that? But no, he's very good with his feet. He's very light, incredibly fast. I mean, the pace in open space was exceptional to see. But I really do agree with you fully on the aspects of when you're talking about his attitude and application and not worrying about not starting and things like that, because I think he absolutely has the case that he should be starting. And I think 99% of fans would be saying this guy needs to start right now, and
Mhm.
probably should have started from the off. But it's important from a player perspective. You get it, you come on, you do your job in the minutes that you have, and you make an impact. And he's doing that, and he's helping the team immensely in doing so. I mean, it's 3 points yesterday, and it's a point the other week against West Ham that would have been a loss. It's a huge impact in a limited amount of time that he's having, and you only make that impact if you're willing to understand like the situation that you're in and have the right attitude and mentality to deal with it, because you come on hungry, you come on ready to do that and to help the team and do whatever it takes.
Also, when Solskjaer was a substitute, one of the things that he used to do was he would really pay attention to the game. And so that when he was coming into the game, he would have spotted things on the bench. Oh, this defender's weak on the left, or they're leaving opportunities here. Really studying how he can come on into a game and make an impact. Again, that's why your attitude on the bench is really, really important. Because if you're sitting there sulking, offended, you're coming into a game with the wrong attitude. You're not paying attention to particular details in a game that are key and how you can exploit them. I think you can only have nothing but admiration for Sesko, the way he handled his injury, the way he's come back, the way he's handled, not playing every week under Michael Carrick, probably since Cavani, James.
Mm-hmm.
He's had the biggest rate to start games of any striker United have had. But he's handled all of this really well. Michael Carrick, of course, in his first term at United, had no problems dropping people like Ronaldo, right?
Yep.
Even people like Bruno. He's not afraid to do it. I thought he would have started with Sesko last night because I thought it was a game that was suited to him. I still think that I would have preferred to see him start the game. But if you can get that decision, even if we don't know what the counterfactual would be, we don't know if Sesko would have started, would he have scored, what would have happened. If you come out of the game winning a game of football and your substitution comes on and scores the goal, you have to say you got it right. So many times, teams under Amorim, we had substitutions come on where the levels dropped, where they were not effectual, where levels dropped. And I know we shouldn't do this, but if you look at the game United lost at home to Everton, down to 10 men, to me, that's where Ruben Amorim shouldn't, that to me is what should have been the final nail in his coffin, because you're playing with 3 at the back against 10 men. Michael Carrick went for the game last night, was making the substitutions to try to win the game. And he, again, was rewarded for that. We're 2 weeks out. Both United and Everton hadn't played for 2 weeks, so we're long out of the new manager bounce window. And all of these games are a different type of test. Now you've had 2 weeks. How do you sustain the momentum after 2 weeks? We all do New Year's resolutions. We're in February, right? Everyone's lost the enthusiasm. You're back to your old habits. Felt great the first couple of weeks, but now we slip back into, our what is, our normal selves. Michael Carrick is building something that's sustainable. What we're seeing in these games is particularly nascent of what Michael Carrick is doing in terms of his tactics, in terms of his instruction, in terms of the way the team's lining up. And also, James, he's the personification of calm and controlled.
Well, and I think that's kind of the main thing that we're seeing is there's a reduction in the variability of game to game, and that's definitely in his attitude as well. What we're seeing is more consistent. And I think, the margins are a little fine at the moment in terms of feeling super confident for the future. Not that the results haven't been very good. The margins are a little tight, in some of these smaller games especially, but there's a lot of consistency. The defensive solidity that we are having now is very consistent on a game-to-game basis. I mean, against, yes, we concede 1 against West Ham, fine. But it wasn't a big deal. And in this one, Everton really didn't get particularly close to scoring. It was a good game from Lamans and such to help with that. But there is a consistency and a solidity that is there in the performances. And it's like it's sort of an interesting it's an interesting thing, because in doing so, of course, it is we're winning more by doing that, and getting points on the board at a regular pace. And I think, considering the job for what it is right now, that's all you can ask for. I think it's been very successful in that regard.
I think when I look at the future, I'm looking at recruitment and going, I've laid in the NLS in many, many ways. But Dorgu, Lamans, Euro, and Bumo, Cunha, Sesko, players like that fills me with enormous optimism for the future.
Yep.
You have young JJ Gabriel, the legs, who is an absolute obvious generational talent. And by the way, a pearl in an oyster, a 1 in a million, because he has street footballer characteristics that is completely gone from the game. You see this. Shea Lacey has a bit of that too. So exciting to see these exceptional young individual talents that aren't just about, system players that are, slot into a system particularly well, but really no individual characteristics, because we've seen that disappear from football, evaporate, because it's being coached out of them. Very, very encouraging on that aspect too. I'm optimistic about the future. United may have stumbled onto a solution with a manager and Michael Carrick. Sometimes the best discoveries are made by accident. There isn't a tremendous amount of quality out there. But you mentioned something that triggered a thought in my head about tight games. Have we seen anyone get hammered this season in the Premier League? Have we seen anyone get hit for 5 or 6? I can't think of a particular game where someone's got absolutely battered, because people talk about Wolves, James, being the worst team in the Premier League. Points-wise, maybe. But that's not the worst team I've ever seen in the Premier League.
No, and Burnley are worse than them too right now. Tottenham might be worse than them, to be honest. Yeah. You know what I mean? But no, there's worse teams. But look, no, I think the biggest margin of victory has been 3 or 4 goals, and the biggest statistical margin of victory was United over Wolves, the 4-1 game that we had. That was it. That's the biggest statistical victory of any team in the Premier League this season.
That's unbelievable.
And so, no, we're not seeing 6-0, games and these huge batterings. It's very clear to me that, we talked about this a year ago about 5th and 17th not being that far apart. And I think it's more true than ever that the league is squished, right? If you think about the distance between bottom and top, it's everything's gotten, I think, more compact in the last couple of seasons.
I might even go 20th to 19th.
4th, right?
You see Wolves get a draw against Arsenal.
I know.
I mean,
and you watch Arsenal play, so unconvincing as well. It's like, that's the league leader. It's so unconvincing compared to what we've seen in years past, when you're looking at City and some of the Liverpool seasons where you're like, they're just miles ahead of everybody else. I don't think anybody is that far ahead, and I don't think anybody's that far behind either.
You know what I think this is, James? Everyone says the Guardiola effect, but honestly, I think what we're seeing is more of an effect that of our kids and how we raise them and how their digital entertainment, because everything now is structured. Training, these kids are going to training practice. We call it out here 4 or 5 times, a couple of times a week in a critiqued environment. Very few kids go play on the street. Go play, street football where you learn a certain skill set that's not coached, curated, and cultivated. And I think so. You're seeing a lot of paint by number athletes that don't have a certain characteristic or skill set that comes from playing away from coaches. What we're seeing, James, is, to me, footballers that know the lyrics but don't know the music.
Yep.
Right? So the footballers that know the music, artists that know the music, are the Ronaldinhos, are the George Best, the Maradonas, the Messis, those players that we don't know how to coach them, or we produce one every year. I just think now we get a lot of players that, like you said, know the lyrics but not the music.
Indeed, for sure. I agree. I'm with you on that.
Fucking Socrates here.
I'm just gonna leave it at that. I agree. No follow up.
Yes,
Finish your
very
poem.
much so. So this is one of the things that's really exciting about the likes of young
Yeah.
JJ Gabriel, who is a truly magnificent talent. We'll get to him in a wee bit. United now, Jimmy Carragher saying last night that United are a guarantee for Champions League. I wouldn't certainly go that far. United have quite a difficult March coming up, James. If you look at March, the United have Palace at home, Newcastle away, Villa home, Bournemouth away. We'll know. To me, if United can take 4 to 6 points, you need to take 4 points off Villa and Newcastle. And I think United will beat Villa at home.
Yeah.
I think they'll be in really good shape. I think Newcastle is not. It's obviously the atmosphere is going to be, white hot as it usually is. Newcastle, of course, are a difficult team to beat. I think if United can go and avoid defeat there, they'll be all right. I think they'll beat Palace at home, Bournemouth away. United just don't particularly do well against Bournemouth, but it will be interesting to see what a Michael Carrick team looks like against Bournemouth. If United have still maintained this momentum after that Villa game, then they still have Chelsea away to go. They've still got Liverpool to play. So it's still quite a difficult run-in. But like we were saying, there's nobody really that scary anymore.
No. Every game's winnable. That's the thing. There's not a single fixture that you go for the end of the season to the rest of the season and say, well, we probably won't win that game. You know what I mean? It's but that doesn't mean we're going to win every single game. It just means you don't have that feeling, and I think we need to see a few differences and things come up, to be sure of that. But it is true. It's wild. I mean, look, we got through the City and Arsenal games, where we were. Liverpool at home. Well, we already did the Anfield away and won this season. So at home, it's going to be tough. There's no doubt about that. I honestly think from a historical standpoint, Newcastle away tends to be one of our worst games. We really struggle with Newcastle for years now for some specific reasons. And this season we did beat them. It was a very strange game in the end, but we did beat them at home 1-0. But that's a tough game. Away at St. James Park has been bad for every one of our coaches for quite a long time. That's probably the closest I'm getting to a game where, and I will say as well, Stamford Bridge away at Chelsea, we almost always draw there. It's like always a fucking draw away at Chelsea every single time. No matter what happens, it's a draw at Chelsea. So those are the two games where I'm feeling like I wouldn't be surprised if we drop points in those games, but the rest of them, I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. I think that one of the things I want to see is you take the games we've just played, tight, difficult, most of the games are. When we're playing Palace at home next week, and I'm sure we'll get to that, Palace are really bad right now. Like they're in a terrible, terrible run of form right now. We beat them in the reverse fixture away for the first time in a long time. I kind of want to see us blow them away, get another one of those at home, like really, really demolish them, because I think that will bring the confidence up in these instances. And that's I think that would fill a lot of us with confidence on the run after this, because there've been a couple tight games. These are a couple tight games.
But are we being unfair to Carrick teams by saying tight games, or we expect them now to go back? I mean, I'm with you.
He's doing a great job on that front.
Yes.
To me, it's not a commentary on the coach. Like there's still limitations. We know this, right? There's still limitations in this team that are only going to be solved in the summer transfer window right now.
With that in mind, I'm looking at United going, I don't know how good they are, how bad they are, because it was just really hard to get an accurate barometer of what is genuinely reflective of United's level. I don't want to, continue singling out Ruben Amorim as a bogeyman, saying every problem was the result of him, and we don't have any problems anymore. Because you're correct, there's systemic issues there that will eventually raise their head. Right. So there's no question, and we'd be very foolish to think, United are, a championship, a title, a team built to compete for the title. But at the same time, if you look at over Carrick's last 6 games, James, first of all, he's got the biggest accumulated points total of all the other managers.
Yep.
United have been the best team in the league under his 6 games. And we're not talking about favourable fixtures here, right? He's brought clean sheets to United. Lamens is helping me heal, right? I was watching a clip on the TV this morning. Well, Aston Villa, and I hear Onana, and I'm not joking there. Right? I was like, what? No. Shit, triggered.
I was reading something someone said on Twitter about that like you watch every little save, you're like, wow, that was a great save, because you're so used to every save being like
the one Tariq George hit. I'm going, these are the ones that slipped underneath Onana.
100%.
Right? Yep. Again, it's not fair.
There was one little bouncer right in front of him that he collected that you're thinking we would have conceded. It would have bounced up and over and gone in. Somehow it would have been screwed up.
If United had Onana or Bayern in goal last night, United lose this game. There's no question. Right? The Lamens is so wonderfully boring, right? Lamens is the type of guy you'd let sleep in the bed beside your wife, and you know he'd never do anything. You let him handle your finances, right? This is the type of guy that I would trust more than I trust myself, right? Just he's just fantastic. The composure, his physical attributes. He's not, he's not someone that is dramatic. He's not someone that is temperamental. He's not someone that tries to overcomplicate things. He is just Tony Colton deserves enormous credit. There's a fantastic interview, by the way, the Talk of the Devils did last week with Eric Steele, former goalkeeping coach, and very, very informative on Lamens and how he came in, started out okay, then had this bit of a dip. One of the things that Steele was pointing out was Vital, the way that was surprised at some of the methods he was using. Now you definitely see Lamens, the way he's performed over the last 6 games have just been magnificent. I mean, we weren't getting clean sheets. Now we're getting clean sheets. Now we can have, United being a goal up. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was nervous the last 10 minutes, especially with those corners, right? But not from open play. Then I'm going, losing Lisandro Martinez was a big blow, but they were able to deal with that. And now I feel like a little bit of confidence of being able to hold on to a 1-0 win. Should have went 2-0 up, to be fair. Big Sesko should have took a second one. We'll forgive him for not doing that. But I think that is an excellent win. I think going away to Everton, it's always a difficult game. I know they're having some issues adapting to their new ground, which is understandable. To go there and win a game 1-0 against a relatively decent team, James, I don't think, if you look at City go to Spurs, a month ago, 2-0 up, draw 2 each. Arsenal dropping points at Wolves. Nobody mentions it, right? Arsenal got a little bit of a bad on over it, but nobody mentions City or anything. That seems to me, forgivable. Liverpool shouldn't have won the game at the weekend against Forest, right? Villa drew. When United draw, apparently it's an indication that Michael Carrick isn't good enough for his job. They won 1-0. Truthfully, they should beat West Ham too, if offsides are adjudicated equally. I don't know, man. I haven't felt this good, this optimistic, this excited to watch United. These big long breaks in between are shite.
Horrifying.
Right? It just seems to last forever. But I haven't felt this good about United since Ten Hag's first season. And that's
it is being able to sit here and talk about wins and things. It's sort of a relief, you know what I mean? When you're sitting there looking for silver linings, and there were some, and looking for good things and positives and the negatives and all of that, it was a good thing. It's nice to look at it from a standpoint of we winning games. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, that's what matters. And I'll be honest, Phil, I'm not particularly interested too much in much discussion about the manager right now, because I don't think each game is much of a reflection on Michael Carrick.
Really?
No, and I'm saying it's not a negative on him, because what I mean is this, right? I'm not going to be a hypocrite on this. I felt very strongly that a lot of our limitations in the team are simply squad limitations we can't do anything about. And obviously the way that Carrick is setting up the team is proving more effective in getting results. It is producing results. I think there's for sure another level the team has to go in order to become title challengers. And when you're talking about next year playing in multiple competitions in Europe, the challenge gets a lot harder in that sense, right? But I don't think it's like, well, hey, Carrick, this is a bad reflection on Carrick, this is a good reflection on Carrick. It's just, there's not much else he can do right now, to be quite honest. Like, I don't think I'd sit there and go, well, what could he do? We could talk about starting Šeško. Okay, I think he should. But if he did and we don't win, and Šeško isn't as much, isn't as effective, and you don't get the goal off the bench, then it's all, we'll see if he does it, what happens, But I look at it that in that respect, and I just go, let's wait a little bit is all on everything, and not make,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, wait on everything, and we don't have to make determinations on things.
No, we don't have to make any determinations. What I would say in slight defense of Ruben Amorim is that Michael Carrick and Ruben Amorim were brought in to do two different jobs.
Correct.
Ruben Amorim was brought in to transition United into a Ruben Amorim team. And when you're saying to Ruben Amorim might have, maybe if you wanted a manager that plays the way Michael Carrick plays, then you don't hire Ruben Amorim. Right. But if you're asking Ruben Amorim to change his football club into a team in his image that plays the way he wants to play, then you are going to have significant teething problems and predictable issues and second and third order effects that are hard to predict as a result of that. And the one thing you cannot scale that is probably more important than anything else is the impact psychologically on players when they're losing games. And so to me, if you bring Ruben Amorim in, you have to commit to him. Like they should have got him a couple of key players in January, not even having a Thorgood that said, so you can win games between now and the end of the season. They give these players confidence on a basis to build on, but they didn't commit. And United, the tensile strength of United's identity and the way that club is on the pitch, it's a very difficult thing to change. And people saying go to the academy and stuff. The problem is that these kids in the academy were not developed to play in a Ruben Amorim system.
Correct.
So they might be excellent individual players, but they don't fit in that system. This is where, I feel for Amorim slightly, and that he was asked to do something that United never really gave him the tools to do properly. Now, I think that for him, he's not the first human being to go to Manchester United and find the pressure and the focus and the scrutiny just suffocating. And he's still a young guy. I think he will learn a lot from this experience at United. But Manchester United is a very lonely place to be whenever you're not winning games of football. So I think you bring in Michael Carrick, you hand him a squad that's entirely suited to play the way he wants to play. So it's a much easier fit. And then, of course, United find rhythm. And I do think, though, there's some personal characteristics that are teams embody their manager.
That might even be the biggest factor, honestly, when I look at it. Because that's what I look at. The team, like you were saying, the team does reflect him more. When you look at it, it's calm, it's composed, it's set, it's compacted. There's a lot of things in there that you look at and go, yeah. And it was the same when he took over from Solskjaer for the 3 games. We watched the football even back then was virtually identical to this. Like, it's the same football, the same idea. There's a calmness, there's a composure. It was defensively sound. It was able to keep itself in these games and make things happen. And my only thing on it was, like, I feel like it almost taints the situation to have every game have to be about what about Carrick next year or something like that? You know what I mean? Because I look at it and I go, one, it's a little too early. It's a little too early in that respect. But if we can just take it, because there's kind of two different jobs, and I'll be honest, I don't envy them for the decision that has to come on this, because I actually think it's really hard. I think it's a really hard decision when you look at it, and it might be, if Carrick is winning, maybe that makes the situation easier, because it's easy just to take him and pick him and know at what level you're going to be minimally at with Carrick, which is probably around the Champions League level. And there's something to be said for that. But it's sort of like the job right now, when I look at the game, if it's a tight performance, a scrappy performance, and we get the points, I don't think that necessarily has to be a reflection on whether he should get the job in the future or not, because he's been brought in for a job right now, which is any temporary manager is going to look at tightening up, being, defensively sound and grinding these points out in the best way possible. And he's done well with it.
I think that, yes, every temporary manager wants to do that, but I think that it's a massive job to be able to do it. Where it's going to be interesting, and another key difference for me between Carrick and Amorim, Carrick was brought in with zero expectation, right? So he's in this period where, look, all you have to do is stop United losing, have them improve a bit. But no manager that gets hired by Manchester United has that expectation or remit. What will happen? Yep. Let's say he gets United in the Champions League. Now, next season, he's not a caretaker manager. Now he's a Manchester United manager. Yep. Now there's real expectation. Now there's real pressure. Now you're not just someone that's fixing the problems of the past and steadying the ship. Now you have to take this Manchester United team to a particular level and win trophies. If Michael Carrick had the same record, say, as Mikel Arteta at United over the same amount of time, I think United would sack him, right? Because I don't think that a consistent second finish.
Yeah.
It's great for a year or two. When Arteta took Arsenal, I think it was from 6th into 2nd. I have to say I was wondering, how's he going to be able to do next season? Because now your expectation is 2nd's a bare minimum, right? Mm. And to be fair, he was able to sustain it. If Michael Carrick finishes 3rd, just say best case scenario.
Sure, yeah.
He's not going to be allowed to finish below that the following season.
Right.
So now we're asking a different question.
Correct.
Can you get us up there, right? With a bit of momentum, a favorable fixture list, favorable. Now next season, you have to deal with pressure, real pressure. To be fair to Carrick, if he gets United in the Champions League, I think that he deserves the opportunity to answer that question. It's a very risky thing to try to break something, to try to fix. You accidentally fixed it. You try to break it again, to fix it again. It's just so risky.
No, I know, and look, I agree with you. But that's sort of my point. Is your point there when you say, look, this season, your job, you got 1 game a week, no competitions, no cups, nothing. You get to play the same 11 every single game. You have less minutes, you have less pressure, you have less everything. And then you go, and he's doing a good job with it. Don't get me wrong. It's a very strange thing, because I try not to draw comparisons to previous managers, because I'm not using Ruben Amorim as a standard, right? Because that's not the standard, for Ruben Amorim to keep his job next year, we would have had to see a lot this season, in my opinion, in terms of success, right? For Carrick, he was brought in to say, good, this season, this situation, get this done. The question about hiring him permanently is not, can you repeat what you just did? It's in a totally different situation with totally different goals, with totally different everything. And we're going to add players, and how are you going to integrate them and these things? And you look at all that and you go, the next coach needs to be answering, you have to be answering a question. Can you win a title with them? That's the question that they're going to be asking. I'm not saying Carrick's not the guy for that. I'm saying that it's a different question than what you're asking this season, because as we've seen in the past, achieving Champions League and winning titles are two totally different equations at the end of the day. We've done one a bunch of times and we haven't sniffed the other in a long time.
Let's say Guardiola leaves at the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anyone in that Premier League where you're looking at, and you're thinking these are guys that are just on a different level, that there is no
Yeah.
one else out
Okay.
there? Like I felt that with Klopp
Yeah.
and Guardiola, where I felt that
Yep.
United are never going to penetrate that top two until one or both of them go.
Yeah.
Right? Liverpool have lost that aura they had under Klopp,
Hmm.
even though Klopp won the league last season, which I have to commend them. That's a incredible accomplishment. But if you look at Liverpool, even under Klopp, every time they had a successful season where they finished first or finished, with second, but within a goal difference of City, the season after that, they dropped.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
3 out of 6 seasons under Klopp, United finished ahead of him, right? And so they were never able to sustain it going into the second season. Slot hasn't been able to do that. Honest, Slot isn't someone that would have any intimidating factor for me.
Yeah.
City are going to have an extremely difficult time replacing Guardiola. Even with that money, James, you look at that and go, if they bring in another manager like Xabi Alonso or Maresca or something, that just doesn't have the same intimidating factor. They can't do what Guardiola does. There's so
Correct.
much to be said for aura, right? For the respect, the deference to respect. Xabi Alonso would be coming off getting sacked by Real Madrid, probably unfairly, to be fair. Maresca is, with
I don't
Chelsea,
get
a
the Maresca
bizarre
thing. I don't get it
situation
at
with
all. I
Chelsea.
think he's.
And you're going, how long does the likes of Holland and I'll sit there and go, if City are, just around second or third or fourth, nowhere near chance. There's a lot of big questions to be asked.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have a manager on that level that has complete control over the football club, it's not the best, because United got stuck in an era that most clubs had already moved long past when they
Yep.
had Ferguson. Right?
Yep.
They'd modernized and United hadn't. And then trying to replace someone like that, all of a sudden, and discipline creeps in. Players don't have the same respect. Players don't have the same trust. It's going to be a big, big challenge for City. Mikel Arteta, I honestly think Wolves would catch Arsenal, right? If
Yeah.
they were, because I think Arsenal are afraid to win the league, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think that. I don't think they have that mentality. You get this managerial decision, right? This summer, James, there is an amazing opportunity for United to go win that league title.
And I do think that that's obviously an argument in his favor, because the other aspect is you look at it and you go, well, who's out there? Who's this elite coach? This guy who's like, that's the one, that we should be getting. That to replace him with. Because for me, it's like already, like I think we've said before, but already I'm not touching any of these other coaches over Carrick. It doesn't matter. There's no way I'm considering a Glasner or Iraola. Not that they're not bad coaches, but it's such a pointless risk to do something like that. Yeah. So then you're going, well, what tier of manager is actually one where you'd say it's worth the risk because you feel they could be that good? Is it Julian Nagelsmann? Is that what you're talking about? Someone who's got that experience, who's that highly regarded? Is it a Luis Enrique if he was to leave PSG, which he probably won't? But if it's not one of those guys, I'm not saying it even is one of those guys, but if it's not, is there somebody you're convinced is better in comparison to the risk? Because it kind of goes both ways. And that's why I flip on it. I'm like, it's such an opportunity that if you did get an absolutely top coach, I'm not saying Carrick isn't, but whoever it was, whether it's Carrick or somebody else, if you get it right, you could win the league next year. And you have to be thinking that way, that we can win the league next year. Going into this summer, United's recruitment, coach decision, it's not another year of progress. It's we can win the league next year. We can. So how do you,
I know that
this is where the big bucks are made,
ridiculous. Well, I mean, first of all, with the signings that United have made last summer, normally when United are making signings, they need to replace them within a year, right? Because they haven't worked out. They now have a foundation. What does concern me slightly is to lose both Casemiro and Maguire's experience in one season. I think I really hope United find a way to extend Maguire's contract and keep him there for at least another year. I don't think this is the year United should be letting Harry Maguire lead the football club.
I would agree. And we've got a lot of real injury issues with center backs too. It looks on paper like we have a lot, but we don't have that many available at any given time.
Like, you know, the leg is
back injury
prone. And it's sad because he was having a fantastic season and he was very important. And was it that Spurs game the last time he played? Was it?
Yeah. Yep. He's been out a long time and looks nowhere near coming back. So it's
that is very unfortunate. Something that we're going to have to consider. They do have obviously exceptional young talent there in Aiden Heaven and Euro. Very, very encouraging. Leighton Martinez, you know, not too concerned about a calf strain. It's load management. You know, you've been out for a long time and you play a number of games. And even though United haven't had a congested fixture list, it's still relatively normal for that to happen. I think United need to do something in right back. I think that they need a better solution to Dalot. I think that they need a better player on the right-hand side. That there's just a number of times where I see Dalot, he makes the wrong passing decision. You know, he underhits passes. You know, he does things where you can just tell it's a quality issue. He's not terrible, but I just don't think he's at United's level where you need to be to win the league. But look, you got to settle goalkeeper, James. That is massive. I mean, every single week you're watching Premier League games. Look at the Arsenal 2-each draw. You know, Raya comes out, drops a ball, and you see this every single week where goalkeepers just overcomplicating things. That you know, there is to me where the Guardiola effect has really had an impact. Is now if you know when I put that picture about John O'Shea, if you're a centre back, right, that can play football and pull off a couple of decent saves, you're a top keeper these days, right? And so it's like to see someone like Lamans, he's not trying to overcomplicate it. He's not trying to be back and bar. He uses his physical attributes. Oh my God, that very rarely have I been this excited about a goalkeeper signing, but the contrast, the composure, the calmness, Carrick said it yesterday about the fact that he doesn't create chaos in his own box. He brings a composure and a confidence and a trust. You know, I often said that Onana was, you know, the opposition's most dangerous player in our box, right? Because I worried about him more than the opposition striker. To be fair, same with Bayern Deer, but they have a solid base. Then they have this prodigious talent called JJ Gabriel. Now, when you're at a football club like United, that has such a history and tradition of promoting young players, if you're a young, talented player, you are going to be put under enormous pressure and comparisons to legends of the past. Ryan Giggs had to deal with this with George Best, all these young players. Get this. JJ Gabriel is such an obvious generational talent. So he's so obviously better than the 99.9% of players at this level. United are obviously going to put that kid in the first team very young. People talk about maybe comparisons as the Lamine Yamal, that type of talent. The variable that we can't really predict is how does he deal with it mentally. And that's going to be really important. He's still a child. I mean, I have an 18-year-old, and the very thought of him playing week in, week out for Manchester United, getting battered on social media and stuff is just, it's hard to get my head around. And this is a kid at 15. How does he deal with all the, you know, all the off-field externalities, all the things that are consequential? That's the thing we don't know. He's going to have to deal with the hype. You know, he's comes from a footballing family. His dad played for Ireland, so they have a footballing base where, you know, they understand what happens in professional football, and I think he'll be well managed. But what an unbelievable talent.
You get only a few of these, and they're ones you know it when they're there, you know. Unfortunately, you know, like Mason Greenwood at the youth level, everybody knew it. He was going to be the level of player that he was.
This is the point I'm making. You just don't know how they handle off the field stuff.
Exactly. And we've had others that have looked unbelievable, that have gone bad in different ways too, for different reasons. And that's not a suggestion that that's going to happen, but you're right. That is the variable, because the talent is undeniable. The talent is there. He is. There's been once every like 5 years, I feel like we get this really clear, like, that's the guy who has a talent that stands out above the rest by far. It's not even a question of are they the most talented, and it doesn't mean other players don't make it either. That's the thing. It's just there's those clear talents that kind of come through, because there's Januzaj and Ravo Morrison and guys who have come.
When is
he
16? When's
he 16? He's turned 16 just at the start of next season, I think it is, or whatever it is, and but you look and it's like October, which is incredible, like right at the beginning of the season. But you had it with a few, and the question is always, how did they handle the step up from a more of a mental standpoint, and dealing with all of that, not the talent, because the talent is there, but it's something to think about. He's going to next season need to get something in the first team. I'm not saying he's ready to be like, he's going to be he should be a regular starter and things like that, but talents of that level do tend to start needing to get those minutes on show, at least to get the taste of the first team, and as well as for them.
Look, Everton couldn't keep Wayne Rooney out of the team, and he was 16.
Yeah.
And there's also the fear, if we don't start playing this kid, we could lose him. But
which is a genuine thing to consider. Yes.
I mean, everyone's been after JJ Gabriel, and United fortunately got him locked down. But that's something that can change day by day. And this is another reason why qualifying for the Champions League, everything is so important, because United will lose those kids.
Yes.
This is same as Shea Lacey and stuff, where, an amazing talent. We all know what happened with his brother off the field. That is no reflection on Shea, of course. But this next generation, this next era that United are about to move into, James, this managerial decision is so important, because you have the likes of young Jim Thwaites and stuff that maybe needs a loan in the Championship for a year. I don't know, but these players will obviously be considered. United can't go out and just spend a couple of $100 million on 3 midfielders. They're going to have some of that supplemented by youth players if they're good enough. The Championship obviously is an amazing opportunity for young players to grow physically and deal with the demands of playing football every single week, because this is the other thing, that JJ Gabriel has a lot of physical development to do. And you look at the likes of Kobbie Mainoo and stuff, James, how many injuries they pick up in between that period of 16 to 19, right?
Yeah, that last kind of growth spurt.
I mean, Scott McTominay went from 5'8" to 6'4".
Yep.
During that period, there's so much going on there physically, the development, the muscles development, and of course the load. So young players are very, very vulnerable. I mean, Jim Thwaites was out for months. So we see what happened to young Harry Amos, who unfortunately picked up an injury. This is very, very common for these young players at this age for this to happen. So be honest, I can't wait to see him in a Manchester United shirt. The excitement, the adrenaline you get from seeing a young player, like when Shea Lacey came on against Villa, almost scored, which was the last time United lost, by the way, which is just unbelievable. I think the one where it was going into the top corner and I hit the bar, I'm going, if that goes in, maybe that saves Amorim. I don't know.
It probably would have, to be honest, because it's such a narrative turner when you get a moment like that.
Okay, we want to sack him because now we're getting young players on the first team.
It's such an emotion shift that it can be like that. Yeah. But you're right too. And one of the other things that we really need Champions League is that we need to be able to give some of these cup games away. Like every year, we're so desperate because we need every avenue back into Europe because we're not good consistently, right? We're not so we're looking at the League Cup like we can't get knocked out because that might be Europa League that it gets us, or Euro Conference League, or it might be our only shot at a trophy, and it might be our only shot at this sort of revenue that's needed, and we're going in like full strength or what have you. You know what I mean? And we look at cups like that. we got to be able to use those games, not to say we should lose, but to have the ability to have a stable team where we can put youth players in those minutes and moments while we're rotating from a Champions League run and a Premier League run. And we're not like, all right, I mean, how many teams have won, the League Cup? It's like, it doesn't do that much for you at the end of the day. It's good. It's nice if you're chasing that big thing, and it's nice to have, but I would much prefer we get to actually debut a bunch of youth and play youth in those cups more and give them that experience. And while we're staying competitive in other leagues, but it's always like, we're so shit in the Premier League and we're so shit in the Champions League and we're so shit in this thing that we're like, well, that's our chance for a trophy this year. So we have to we have to go full strength, all in on it. And look, it makes for some fun moments, but like, that game where we put like 7 past Reading or whatever. I remember who we were playing, honestly, where, Garnacho gets 2 and Rashford gets 3 and, or whatever it was that happened. It had no bearing on how poorly the rest of the season went. Like, it didn't change anything. We were still crap in the Premier League, even though we blew them away in that cup game. And it's sort of like, it would have been nice to use those then as league games, because they're not fixing you. If you're bad in the Premier League and the Champions League, a good League Cup game isn't fixing the team. It's not suddenly making everything okay. And so we hopefully we can get back to having uses for that, because there's young players I would like to see getting chances in those games.
I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice the League Cup as a consolation, right? No team, top club should be set as a target and as a definition of success. But if you're not being successful, it's not something you could turn your nose up at.
Yes.
But yes, I think it has far more utility to United if you're not under pressure where you have to win it to save your job, or you can use some of your young players and get them much needed experience at that particular level. And because there's just so few opportunities in the Premier League to play these kids. But I think we'll see a number of them on United's pre-season tours and stuff. I think we'll see a number of these young players getting, especially with the World Cup coming around. Do we have anything else, mate, before we split?
No, just Palace at the weekend at home. I hope if we can follow it up with another win and another good game, then
considering the next 3 fixtures, James, are Newcastle away, Villa home, and Bournemouth after that. I think it is really important that United beat Crystal Palace. And the other teams will be doing them huge favors last weekend, of course, going into this game on Monday, with the exception of the PGMOL for Liverpool. But other than that, it was a good weekend for United. Very, very encouraging. I'm thoroughly enjoying watching Manchester United again, and I've never been this excited about a goalkeeper. So it's very weird to be this positive.
Let's hope it continues.
No, may it continue. Don't forget, folks, check out my friend's platform here. There's tons of other exceptional content that's very well worth you downloading. And I'll be back tomorrow with my podcast with Sean. Much love to all of you. Cheers, folks. Cheers, James.
Bye.
See you later, Matt.
See you.